Heyo everyone, I hope all of you had a wonderful and safe holiday season as well as a wonderful New Year's. And speaking of New Year's, today is the first video of 2021. We finally did it. We finally made it through 2020 and into 2021. And in doing so, I know a lot of you have that New Year's resolution of learning how to code. So I'm going to show all of you today how to get started with Python. So sit back, relax with your favorite snack and in your favorite spot, and let's get started, shall we? So the first thing you really have to understand about Python is that there's three sections of Python that work in unison so that you have a successful coding session. The first one's going to be the Python IDE. There are many different types of Python IDEs, as all of you will see in today's video. But what the Python IDE is actually just the graphical interface between you and the Python interpreter, which is the next part that we'll talk about. But essentially what the IDE is for is where you're actually writing your code. It is where you're actually deciding what's going to be in the code and what's not going to be in the code. The Python interpreter is what comes after this, where as soon as you hit run, the Python IDE tells your computer that I want to run this Python file. Your computer then pulls out the Python interpreter. The Python interpreter essentially is like your it's like your translator between you and your computer. So whatever you're typing in the Python IDE, the Python interpreter then will translate it from essentially human language to computer language. And then the last part, the most important part, is the Python virtual environment. And the Python virtual environment is just like a failsafe for your computer so that you can run really any type of Python code that you want without having to worry about you breaking your computer because of some code that you actually launch. The Python virtual environment, you can turn it on and off whenever you wish, and you can build all three of those on your own. I mean, you can go on to Jupyter Lab and download the Jupyter Lab IDE, and then you can download the Python interpreter on your own, and then you can build your own virtual environment. However, for those beginners are just getting into coding, it's a lot easier if you get a program that does all three of those all at once. So a great program, a great software package like that is called Anaconda, which I'm going to bring up right now. So Anaconda should be up on the screen right now, and I should be down in the corner. So what Anaconda does is when you download it, it comes with a whole boatload of different IDEs. It downloads the Python interpreter for you, as well as it creates its own virtual environment. And not only that, it also downloads a lot of libraries that most people use on a daily basis. So really altogether, Anaconda is really an all-in-one package for really any type of programming that you're trying to do. So now let's start talking about the website. The website's right over here. Let me get my mouse. And this is just the home page. You can read through it if you would like when you get to the Anaconda website. However, we're just going to switch over straight to, we're going to click on products, individual edition, click that. Alright, so this website's going to be down below in the description. This is the link that you need to get the download for Anaconda. And you can click right here, but right here is just going to bring you right to the bottom of the page, which is going to show you essentially 6 downloading options that can correspond to 3 different iOSs. You have 2 choices for Windows, 2 for Mac, 2 for Linux. I have the 64 graphical installer for Mac OS right here, and I already have it downloaded onto my computer. So instead of just re-downloading, I'm just going to show all of you what it looks like when you have it up on your screen. As soon as you open up the Anaconda Navigator, it's going to show you all the IDEs that are supported by its virtual environment. So none of these IDEs right here are created by Anaconda. What Anaconda does is it has its own virtual environment that's really, really robust. I mean, PyCharm is not something that's pre-installed, but the other IDEs you see here, I don't want to open up Orange, but the other IDEs you see here are all pre-installed. And also, the only other IDE here that isn't Python is this RStudios. RStudios is only for the programming language R. We're not going to be talking about R today. And I will also mention the 3 Python IDEs that I use. Basically, whenever I'm programming, I choose one of these 3 because they give me a whole boatload of different options. Usually I pick Spider, PyCharm, or Jupyter Lab. Jupyter Lab is what we're going to be working on in later videos, but for today's video, we're going to click launch for Spider, and then we're going to wait for it to open up. Alright, so we got the Spider IDE all up on the screen right now, and this is very typical. It's going to say that a software update is available. We're not going to update the software today. I'm just going to hit OK. But I am going to come over to here, new file, and then we're going to save this file. Alright, so I picked Hello World just because I just want to keep this of kind of like a nostalgic video, because Anyone that starts a programming language, that's learning any programming language for the very first time, they're going to know that the very first program that you create is going to be the Hello World program. So today's video's code is going to be called Hello World, and then the .py I'll explain. The .py I'll explain later. We're just going to hit save, and then we're all set to go. Now, when you're getting into Python, the very first thing you're going to want to learn how to do is how to get the program to interact with you and how to get it to communicate with you. And the way you're going to do that is with the print function. So we're just going to say hello world. And then we're going to come up over to here and we're going to hit run. Now, let me explain how. So remember how at the beginning of the video I explained about the Python IDE, the Python interpreter, and the Python virtual environment. So when you hit this run, Spider is going to tell your computer, hey, we have a program that needs to be run. And that is based off of this. It's telling your computer run file. And then it's going to tell your computer exactly the file location. So in my circumstance, it's user/WilliamMcKeon/helloworld.py. All right, so that's the working directory, and it sends this directory, this file directory, to your Python interpreter. When your computer first gives this file to your Python interpreter, it's going to double check that it is a Python file based off of the file extension at the end, which is .py. That is how the Python interpreter knows that this is a Python file. Now, the next thing it's going to do is it's also going to go line by line to make sure to find out what it's going to be doing. And so from 1 to 8, it knows it's all comment, so it's going to ignore that out. As soon as it gets to line 9, however, it sees print. So it's like, all right, so now I know that I'm going to be doing some kind of interaction between me and the user. And it's going to then go across the line to see what type of interaction, and it sees that it's going to be doing hello world. So therefore it knows that the first thing it's going to do is print out hello world to the user, and then it goes to the next line and sees nothing below it. So therefore the Python interpreter knows that the file is done after that. As you've all seen on this channel, I've done a lot more stuff with coding, especially the last video, but this is really the basics of programming, and specifically programming with Python. Another cool thing is you can assign stuff to a variable, and what a variable is a label for a piece of data. All right, so and the piece of data can be anything really. So we're going to set this thing, we're going to say var, let's do basic equals hello world. Alright, so now we assigned the label basic to the piece of data saying hello world. What can we do with it? We're going to take this all out right here, and we're going to now put it underneath. So then we're going to hit run again. Nope, not search. We're going to hit, nope, come on. Hit run again, and it's going to do the same exact thing, because when you hit run, it will go line by line by line by line by line, and the Python interpreter knows that all of this is comments. So it knows to itself that the user does not want you to pay attention to these lines. However, it does know that right here it is a variable. It's going to go to the next line and be like, all right, so the variable basic is going to be assigned based off of this equal sign. Remember, when you assign a variable a value, you have to put an equal at the end of your variable. So equals, and then it's going to equal this assigned value. All right, so the label basic is assigned the value hello world. So it remembers that, and then it's going to go to the next line. It says print, and it says basic again. So it's going to be like, oh, I remember the value of basic. It's going to be equal to hello world. Now, another cool thing about Python is that the value of a variable can change throughout the code. So meaning basic is hello world up there, but if I do basic again equals what now, and I do, nope, basic, it's going to first do hello world right here. It's going to do hello world right here first, and then it's going to do what now. All right, so watch. Hello world, what now? So if I were to change this, Command C. If I were to take this, and put this command underneath that last print function, it's going to stay, basic's going to still be saying hello world. So if I run it, it's going to say hello world, because the value change happened after this print. If there was another print underneath, it would change to what now. All right, so the value of the variable is going to be whatever it is assigned above it. All right, now another thing you have to keep in mind with variables, there's certain rules you have to think of when assigning a piece of data a variable, and that is that it can't start off with a number. It can't be 1 like this. It won't do it. So if I were to change this to this, that, and then run it, it's not going to like that. It's going to say invalid decimal literal. As well as if I were to go like this, B space, it's not going to like that either. Invalid syntax, because that's, you can't do spaces, but what you can do is underscores. So if I were to change that space between B and basic to an underscore and then run it, it'll be all fine. Besides that, what you can do to actually get around that number thing, so say you wanted a number, say you want B underscore basic 1, you can either put the 1 like that and run it, or you can do B underscore basic underscore 1. As long as that number is at the end, the Python interpreter does not care. Another thing you have to think about is that you can't assign a variable something that's already a predetermined value or predetermined function inside of Python. Python actually has something that allows you as a programmer to know if this is a pre-assigned variable or pre-assigned function, and that is off of syntax highlighting. So you have syntax highlighting here, which is the orange right there. That's telling you that this print is already predefined inside of Python. But if you were to go here, you see that this is a string. This is a string, all right? And the way you can tell by that is by how it turns green. So that's another way you can tell for strings. If you're trying to write a sentence to someone inside of Python, the way you can tell that you're doing it correctly is if it is highlighted green. Now you can tell it's a variable, that you picked a proper variable based off of how in Spider you can tell that it's a solid white, all right? So white inside of Spider means that it is a variable. It is an okay variable to use. Green means a string. Orange means it's a predefined function inside of Python. Now there are other colors, and there are other colors that are that mean different things, but that is not something that we're going to get into in today's video. Also, these syntax highlighting change throughout different IDEs. So if you were to use Jupyter Lab, this orange may be a different color, it may be more yellow, all right? It all depends on the IDE that you're using, all right? So the last thing you really have to also keep in mind with variables is how to correct a variable if there's an error. So this is a very basic error that you'll get, and also everyone, programmers get errors all the time. It is part of being a programmer, so don't get mad. Just remember how to look at an error so that you can correct the error without any issues. And I'll show all of you a really basic way to get around this right here. We're gonna hit run, and it's gonna say, this is how you read an error message. It's gonna tell you the file right here, file, and then it's gonna tell you the directory, and then it's gonna tell you line 9. So that means at line 9 there's an issue, and it's gonna tell you the code, print underscore basic. Right here. So line 9, this is the piece of code that has an issue. Alright? And then and then underneath it tells you exactly what error it is. So for this one, it is name error, name basic, B underscore basic is not defined. Basically saying that this part right inside of these brackets are not defined within the code above that print. So if we were to take this out from the code above it and then hit run, it's going to run correctly and say hello world. That is the basics of variables within Python. There are many different types of data sets within Python, so that basically variables can be assigned to many different types of data sets. Remember, a variable is a label assigned to a piece of data, and actually this is one type of data set right here. So if you know what this is, actually leave it down in the comment section. In my next video on how to code with Python, I will call you out if you're correct. So if you want to get a call out in the next video and you know what this is, leave it down in the comment section down below. And if you enjoy this video as well as you found value from this video, please consider hitting that like button. It really does help support this channel. If you're not yet subscribed and you want to learn more about Python and how to code in Python, also remember I also show how to create machine learning algorithms, how to 3D print, how to 3D design. So if any of that interests you, hit that subscription button as well as that bell icon. And until next week, I'll see you all. Bye.